Hi everybody, John Copy here to do a review of my ongoing spaghetti western marathon. And today I'm taking a look at a very, very interesting film, which let me turn down the TV just a little bit here. Oh god, you can't really see it, but every time I do a review, I'm just sitting on the arm of my recliner. So every time I reach for something, I'm about to fall over. This is a very interesting film. Another later spaghetti western from 1975, a year before Keoma. And it's directed by the godfather of Italian gore. And it is Lucio Fulci's Four of the Apocalypse, which comes in this awesome 3-pack, which Blue Underground is doing these 3-packs, and there's 3-packs and 2-packs, and they're putting together a lot of their catalog titles together. Which, for like me, you don't own a lot of these films, and you know, some of them you're not sure you want to take a full risk on. This is the great best way to get because I got this for $10, and it comes with Comparanosis, I think it's actually that, For the Apocalypse and Run Man Run. And I was like, I want to watch a spaghetti western or not, but I wasn't real sure what I was in the mood for. And I was like, you know what? I want to see some Fulci goodness. Let's see some Fulci violent fun. Let's watch For the Apocalypse. And I wasn't quite right about what I was getting myself into. This was not the film I was expecting to get. For the Apocalypse is the film I'm talking about. I'm not sure if I mentioned it. Lucio Fulci's For the Apocalypse. And it tells the story of 4 petty criminals. Stumpy, who is a gambler and con man kind of guy. Bunny, who is a pregnant prostitute. Bud, who is a mentally handicapped guy who has an obsession with dead people. And Clem, who is a alcoholic to the 10th degree. And basically they are running out of this town, which the film starts strange. Like, the film starts exactly like how I thought the film was going to be, where like this town every once in a while has these masked vigilantes come through and kind of just raid the town and kill people, and the sheriff does nothing about it. Very odd way to start the movie. Like, I'm still not quite sure like what that was all about. But then they're running out of this town and they go on this adventure where they decide to they think they know where they're going. And basically they run into a bandit named Chaco, who is, I believe, Tom Millen is his name. He's a spaghetti western staple. He's in a ton of these movies. And at first everything seems to be alright. He's helping them get food, and he seems like a good addition to the team. More quickly, they realize that he is nothing more than a brutal bandit who has nothing but bad intentions for them. And he basically drugs them one night, rapes Bunny, leaves them for dead. And the movie from then, like, the best way, like the easiest way to say it is like basically Stumpy then vows revenge on Chaco, and he goes for it. But that is not a very accurate depiction of what happens, because then the movie becomes this journey movie about these 4 people who've grown a bond with each other and their journey to find somewhere, basically, just somewhere, you know, somewhere they can go, and all the trials and tribulations that happen with them. And towards the end of the film, it does become a revenge film. That's the best way to describe this film. And like I said up front, like, I was not expecting the film that I got. I was expecting something along the lines of like The Beyond or Seal of the Dead, where it's like, oh, this is gonna be a Fulci, gory, western, violent, fun, boobadoo. This is a very bleak and emotional movie. Like, I never would expect it to be moved by a Lucio Fulci film. And this is the film that, like, if you think Fulci is a one-trick pony, this is the movie to watch, because he will completely change. This movie will completely change your opinion on what Lucio Fulci can do as a director, or could do as a director. You know, he's gone for a while now. Because I mean, the first opening sequence is this raid of this town by these masked vigilantes. At least that's what they call them in the movie. And like, there's real violent gunshots, and like, it's very chaotic. And that was the film I was expecting, but from there you grow to love these four characters, and basically when it starts going to hell for them, you become so emotionally attached to these characters that you just feel miserable as things happen to these characters. You just, you're just like, please, something good happen to them. And I almost equate this movie to something like Viggo, the Road with Viggo Mortensen. I mean, it's not quite on that level of dreary depressingness, but it's very similar, where it's like you're just waiting for something good to happen to these characters. It's just bad thing after bad thing after bad thing, and just the whole time it's just like Fulci's just smacking you in the face, like, how you like that? Your emotions in check now. Well, boom, how about that? Take that. It was an odd experience of a film, because, like, and a very good one. Like, I'm completely blown away by this film. Like, I was not expecting to love this movie as much as I was. And I think that's why this movie gets bad reviews. Like, I looked up online on IMDb. A lot of people gave it fair reviews. But some people are like, oh, it's boring, it's stupid. I think they were expecting the Beyond, Zillerman Dead, New York Ripper, these hyper-violent, gore fests that Fulci is known for. But it's a much more subtle, much more realistic, down-to-earth film. And yeah, it does have very violent moments. And like, when the violence comes, it's violent. It's the most violent spaghetti western I've seen so far. And depiction form, I mean, there's a lot more spaghetti westerns that have a lot more death and stuff in it, but in the way they depict the violence in this film is more so than most spaghetti westerns. And these people probably like me, didn't expect that, but because I'm looking for good spaghetti westerns and not, typical Fulci, well, I was expecting typical Fulci, I wasn't looking for it. I was like, wow, this film is amazing. It's another one of those things where it's like, though this was the tail end of this genre, of this film in Keoma, despite the horrible soundtrack of Keoma, it just shows that this was one of the best genres in film history. I mean, from beginning to end, just great films in the genre. Where, like, you look at the tail end of the slasher genre in the 80s, they took a nosedive. And I'm sure, like, I'm not no expert on spaghetti westerns. I'm positive there's bad spaghetti westerns out there. But, these later spaghetti westerns, it should be harder to find good late spaghetti westerns, but there just isn't. I mean, Before the Apocalypse is just, way up there on my list now of spaghetti westerns. What else to say about this film? I love the fact that this is not your typical spaghetti western. Most spaghetti westerns kind of feature your gunslinger who comes to this town to fight bandits and save the town, or he wants revenge on these people, stuff like that. It usually focuses on some kind of gunfighter. Your main characters in this film are nothing but petty criminals. They have no experience as duelists or amazing gunfighters. They're just people, and they're thrown into the situation where they have to defend themselves, and they're not. They don't have two pistols on their hips, things like and put away the enemies, and it leaves them vulnerable. And that's a very interesting take on a western, just in general, not just a spaghetti western. And the film is, it's more of a journey survival film, more so than even like a spaghetti western. It's a very, very good take on, stepping outside of that boundary, outside the box. You gotta take your hat off to Fulci for that, man. I mean, he really pushed the genre. I mean, it's easy to look at this film like, this isn't a spaghetti western. This is, it doesn't have your typical cliches that make it, the genre, make it a part of the genre, but it still is because of the setting and, everything else. There's a few things about the film I wasn't big on. Like, I felt it kind of dragged a little bit. And Chaco is such a great villain that I would like to see more of him in the film. And the character Bud, what happens with him, I wasn't big on as well, because, you know, I won't spoil it or anything, but the way everything goes down with his character, I felt that he deserved a bigger way to kind of wrap his character up. I won't spoil anything. I'm not going to, like, say what happens with him, or, you know, and I don't know what else to say. I mean, like, I was kind of blown. Another thing I wasn't big on in this film is I felt the soundtrack was just okay. There's some really good pieces of music, and then for some ungodly reason, these later spaghetti westerns, they just love to have, like, narrative singing. I don't know what it was, but this film, just like Kioma, has singing, but thankfully this one is not as bad. This sounds like Simon & Garfunkel, which I can live with that. But overall, I was just completely floored by this movie. I was like, wow, this is impressive. And like I said, if you have you're like, oh, Fulci was a one-trick pony, all he did was these gory splatter films. Well, watch this and tell me that he's a one-trick pony. I mean, this film gave me a new respect for Fulci. I mean, I always loved Fulci films, and I respect Fulci as a director highly, but this gave me a new respect for Lucio Fulci. I was like, this guy was one talented son of a gun. And I mean, it's kind of left me speechless. I'm sitting here like I'm trying to think of things to say, and I'm like, it was just a great movie. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. So yeah, For the Apocalypse, Lucio Fulci. Whether you pick it up in this 3-pack or you pick up the single disc, whatever, just watch For the Apocalypse and be amazed like I was, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I need to stop doing reviews late at night, guys. I'm just like, boo. But I was kind of planning on doing this review tomorrow, but I was so impressed by For the Apocalypse that I automatically was like, I gotta talk about this movie. So yeah, For the Apocalypse, if I was going to rate it, which, you know, sometimes I like to rate movies, sometimes I don't, I would give this movie a solid 4. I mean, just great. It goes right real high up into my lists of favorite spaghetti westerns, and I was sitting here thinking, you know, for the longest time my favorite Fulci film has been The Beyond. I love The Beyond. I may like For the Apocalypse better than Beyond. I don't know. You know, that's just, you know, it's one of those things. I've only seen For the Apocalypse one time. I should go back and watch it again down the road and see if my thoughts still remain the same before I make a bold statement of saying this is better than my favorite Fulci film of all time. But I wasn't expected to be so emotionally drained by a Fulci film like I was this one. Like, this film was just like, beat me over the head with like, this is sad, ain't it? Eh? It's gonna get sadder. So yeah, Lucio Fulci's For the Apocalypse. Couldn't recommend it higher. Go check it out, guys. And I'm gonna keep doing some spaghetti western reviews. I'm gonna try to mix it up a little bit so I'm not doing just spaghetti western stuff. But every time I feel like my spaghetti western love is starting to wane a little bit, like, let me watch something else. I see something like For the Apocalypse, I'm like, I want to see more spaghetti western. So, yep. I'll be back very soon. Hopefully this Friday we'll have a Matt review up. That's the plan. But, you know, with school and stuff like that, it's hard to get Matt to watch movies with me. But if we do one, it'll more likely be a spaghetti western. So, see y'all then. I'm John. Adios.